Okay, well, welcome back to our second module now. We had our opening one obviously last week, and that was sort of the introduction into the course, right? Sort of gradings and expectations and things like that. And I hope you all found that video very helpful. Now we're moving into the content, right? And the first section that we're going to be starting with now, in terms of actual material, is the age of exploration, right? Now, this period is often one that's kind of confusing, right? Let's talk about time period, and then I'll explain why it's so confusing. The time period that we're talking about here is largely from about 1450 until about 1700. That would be the time period that I would assign to it, and I think most people would. Some people obviously maybe push it to 1400 and maybe to 1750 or to 1650. But I think for our purposes, you really should be thinking about it from 1450 to 1700, excuse me. Now, what is it that makes this period so unique or so different? Well, what makes it so different is that we are now in a period where there is a group of Europeans, right, starting with the Portuguese, but also the Spanish, Italians, and so on, and I'll mention names in a few moments, that start to spread and start to look for different places to travel to, right? Now, why in the 1450s, right? Well, why in the 1450s is a great question. The reason that it starts in the 1450s is because of trade. Now, I'm sure many of you know about the Silk Roads, and you've probably heard a bit about those. Now, the Silk Roads started trade between Europe and Asia, starting with the Crusades in the 1000s. People loved getting the spices, the silks, and all of the commodities from there. Now, starting with that, you have this huge beginning of trade. You have Marco Polo, right, of the water game fame. But then things get tense, and it starts in the 1400s when Constantinople is conquered by the Ottoman Empire. When Constantinople is conquered by the Ottoman Empire and turned into Istanbul and all that, then you have the change, and you have the shutdown of the Silk Roads, the final shutdown of the Silk Roads. And because of that, you now need to find a different way to get to Asia. So the Portuguese begin their sea exploration around the Cape of Africa and into the Indian Ocean. The Spanish follow, English, and so on and so on. So that's why the 1450s. Why do I call it the Age of Exploration, right? Not discovery, right? You'll hear even one of the readings that you're going to read is called the Age of Discovery. This is not a period of discovery. People live and people have been to the places where our European friends are going. So no one is discovering anything. They certainly, though, are exploring it. And exploration also has another connotation to it, right? So this is called the Age of Exploration. Exploring here is an inquisitive aspect, right? They are looking to discern and find out things about the places they are in. And that comes out of the Renaissance and this idea of questioning and finding out answers and having answers to certain things. So that's why I would say that this is the Age of Exploration and not the Age of Discovery. Now, we know that there are certain major figures, right? Christopher Columbus is probably the most noted, and we will celebrate a holiday to him in October. But the Age of Exploration has some other notable figures too, right? Prince Henry the Navigator. Prince Henry the Navigator is from Portugal, and he sets up a school for navigation where his students really study nautical science for the first time in really any true fashion, right? They use the compass and the astrolabe, things that were taken from Asian societies, Asian scholars, and used in European navigation. So that starts here too. You have Vasco da Gama, who and Vasco and Amerigo Vespucci, and John Cabot. All of these different guys sail for different countries, right? Portugal for Da Gama, Amerigo Vespucci for Italy, John Cabot for England. You have these different guys who are sort of making their way into different parts of the globe, right? Da Gama goes around into the Indian Ocean. Amerigo Vespucci discovers and maps the eastern seaboard of what would become the United States. John Cabot sails around sort of New England, southern Canada. So we have different people here. Christopher Columbus, though, is the person who I think is really interesting in all this. And not just because he discovers America, right? He doesn't discover America. There's something like 10 million Native Americans who are living in North America. So nothing is discovered here. However, he opens up the New World. He opens up the goods and the commodities and the trade that will ultimately define the years after 1500. Now, what motivates these explorers is really three things, and we call them the three G's, right? The three G's: God, glory, and gold. Those are your three things that you must remember, right? God. First of all, when Christianity has never been established in the New World, North and South America. So when these explorers are coming to the New World, they are finding ways to try and convert these new Native Americans, Indians, into Christians. So they're sending priests, they're sending religious people, all to try and convert. So that's the God, right? Convert the natives. Glory. There's this idea that if you can establish a colony for the king or the queen or the prince or whoever you're being sent for, you will have glory. Your name will go down in history. That's pretty easy. And finally, obviously, the gold part is easy as well, right? There's great riches to be had in the New World. Streets paved with gold, as they said. So all these things sort of motivate folk to come to the New World. And that's the motivation, the three G's, right? God, glory, and gold. Once Europe connects to North and South America, what we establish here is called, and this is something you should write down, the Columbian Exchange, right? The Columbian Exchange is the transfer of goods from Europe and Africa and Asia to the New World, North and South America, but also the goods that go from the New World, North and South America, to the Old, right? Now, what are some of those goods? Particularly from places like Europe, Africa, and Asia, you have important food goods, but also travel goods, right? You have cattle. Cows do not exist in North and South America before the 1500s. Chickens don't exist. Pork, pigs. Horses, right? We think of the Native American trotting around on a horse, but that didn't exist up until the 1500s. We also have food goods, apples, oranges, rice, sugar. All of these things don't exist in the New World before 1500. Going the other direction, from North and South America to Europe, Africa, Asia, you never have things like coffee, tobacco, llamas. These things don't exist in Europe, Africa, Asia, but are brought over with them. Now, the most damaging of all of these, the effect of all of these, is diseases. And you'll see this when you actually watch the other video that I'm asking you guys to watch. But the Columbian Exchange, the worst effect here is disease. The Old World, Europe, Africa, Asia, has many diseases. Smallpox, tuberculosis, the common cold. Things that did not exist in the New World. So if you were born in Europe, you had a resistance to the cold, smallpox, the Black Death, the bubonic plague, right? You have all these things that you would have experienced and you would have gotten a resistance to. That never happened in the New World because the New World was completely shut off. So you have this 10 million people, like I said before, that never were exposed to these illnesses. And when you bring in boats filled with Europeans who have these diseases, the Native Americans are very susceptible. And they die in vast numbers. You're talking deaths of, if there's 10 million people, roundabout, 9 million people die. That's a staggering number. 9 million people out of 10 million die. And or 8 million, depending on we don't have great census data for who lived here, and we don't have great census data for who died. But it's important to see that the numbers of people who die is extortionate. It is unbelievable. That being said, there's also great life that comes out of this. In Africa, Asia, and Europe, because of these new foodstuffs, like potatoes come from the New World, right? Irish potatoes. Because of this, the number of people who are born in the Old World, Europe, Africa, and Asia, because of all of these new food products, skyrockets. So many more people are born because of this new food, this new caloric intake. So there's great damages that are done in terms of diseases, in terms of the numbers of people who are put into slavery in the New World to grow tobacco and sugar. But there's also great life that comes out of it in Africa, Asia, and Europe. So there's also great wealth, right? We have this huge wealth that's developed. So the question I think that needs to be asked is the Columbian Exchange a net positive or a net negative? And I know that's a tough question, right? Because it's neither one or the other. But in your opinion, what is that? Thank you.